In the deep and restless heart of the American Civil War, there rose a moment when the fate of a nation seemed to hinge on a single stretch of river, a single fortified hill, and a single commander whose determination burned brighter than the fires of conflict that surrounded him. It began with a question that echoed across the divided land. Who would control the Mississippi River, the great artery that carried life, commerce, and strategic power from the northern plains to the southern Gulf? That question would be answered not by chance, but by the relentless vision of Ulysses S. Grant, whose campaign for Vicksburg would reshape the war and carve his name permanently into the unforgiving stone of history. As the war advanced into its second and third year, pressure on the Union leadership intensified. Many officers hesitated to take bold steps. The Confederate stronghold of Vicksburg towered over the Mississippi River like a guardian carved from the earth itself. Perched upon steep bluffs and defended by seasoned soldiers under the command of Lieutenant General John C. Pemberton, the city became known as the Gibraltar of the Confederacy. Its cannons controlled passage up and down the river. Its presence split the Union in two. Supply lines, troop movements, and national strategy all suffered because the Confederates held this single point of power. President Abraham Lincoln observed with growing concern that the Mississippi River must be opened, for the river was the key to the entire Western theater. If the Mississippi flowed freely under Union control, the Confederacy would be severed, its connection to the Trans-Mississippi region cut, and its capacity to wage war significantly weakened. Many tried to take Vicksburg. Many failed. Rivers flooded, swamps blocked passage, and entrenched guns roared down upon any ship that dared challenge the heights. The Confederates believed that Vicksburg could never fall. Grant believed that Vicksburg must fall. Grant began his effort with a series of canal and river diversion attempts that tested the limits of engineering and perseverance. Soldiers hacked through dense forests and dug in mud that swallowed tools and boots alike. They battled disease, insects, and unpredictable currents. The hope was to bypass the Confederate guns entirely, but nature refused to yield. Floodwaters shifted with sudden violence. Swamps grew thicker, and even the most determined efforts failed to provide a workable path. Still, Grant did not give up. He studied every bend of the river, every approach through the swamps, and every high ridge that encircled the city. Other generals might have retreated to easier fronts, but Grant saw opportunity where others saw only defeat. He understood that the campaign demanded not only force, but creativity, endurance, and a level of resolve that matched the difficulty of the objective. So he made a decision that would alter the course of the war. Instead of approaching Vicksburg directly from the north as the Confederates expected, he would march his army down the west bank of the Mississippi River, cross below Vicksburg, where the Confederate defenses were weaker, and strike from the east with a rapid series of battles that would prevent Pemberton from gathering reinforcements. It was a daring and risky plan that required precise timing, absolute secrecy, and unwavering faith in the ability of his soldiers to overcome the hardships of terrain and war. To execute the crossing, Grant needed control of the river. Rear Admiral David Dixon Porter commanded the Union naval flotilla. Porter agreed to run his ironclad gunboats and transport vessels past the Vicksburg batteries under cover of night. Confederate artillery crews waited along the cliffs, ready to unleash fire upon any Union ship that ventured near. On the chosen night, Porter ordered his fleet to move quietly but steadily down the river. Flames from Confederate signal fires lit the bluffs. Cannons thundered and shells exploded across the water as Union crews struggled to maintain position under a rain of iron. Ships caught fire and decks splintered, but the fleet pressed forward. When dawn broke, the Union Navy had endured terrible danger, but enough vessels survived to carry Grant's troops across the Mississippi River. The crossing began at Bruinsburg. Soldiers marched through fields, climbed steep hills, and advanced with determination that seemed almost superhuman after the long months of frustration. Grant moved quickly. He understood that speed was essential. Confederate forces were scattered, unsure of where the Union Army would strike next. Grant seized the moment. He pushed inland, surprising the garrison at Port Gibson and winning a hard-fought battle that secured his foothold. From there he pivoted eastward, defeating Confederate forces at Raymond and scattering their defensive lines. He then captured Jackson, the capital of Mississippi, burning military supplies and infrastructure that fed the Confederate war effort. Pemberton, confused by shifting reports and pressured by Confederate President Jefferson Davis, marched his army out of Vicksburg to intercept Grant. Grant responded with characteristic clarity. He struck Pemberton at Champion Hill in a decisive engagement that forced the Confederates to retreat westward. Once again, the Union forces pressed the attack with relentless determination. At the Big Black River Bridge, Grant's troops overwhelmed the Confederate lines, sending Pemberton's men fleeing back into the fortifications of Vicksburg. By this point, Grant had achieved what many believed impossible. He had marched his army deep into enemy territory without a secure supply line. He had fought and won 5 major battles in less than 3 weeks. He had maneuvered with such speed that the Confederates could not form a unified defense. Vicksburg was now surrounded. Grant began with 2 direct assaults against the city, hoping to end the siege quickly. His soldiers advanced with courage, but the fortified cliffs and defensive trenches held firm. Confederate sharpshooters and artillery inflicted heavy casualties. Grant realized that Vicksburg would not fall to a swift assault. It would fall through siege. And so the long and grueling siege of Vicksburg began. Union engineers dug trenches, built artillery emplacements, and slowly tightened the noose around the city. Day after day, shells crashed into streets and buildings. Night after night, the people of Vicksburg huddled in caves that they dug into the hillsides, seeking refuge from the bombardment. Food grew scarce. Horses, dogs, and even rats became sources of sustenance as supply lines collapsed. Disease spread. Hunger drained strength. The Confederates fought with resilience, but every day the situation worsened. Meanwhile, the Union lines remained firm and disciplined. Grant organized steady resupply, maintained morale, and encouraged his men to remain focused on the larger purpose of their hardship. He understood that victory at Vicksburg would split the Confederacy and open the Mississippi River completely to Union control. As the days stretched into weeks, Pemberton faced an impossible situation. His soldiers were exhausted. Civilians suffered terribly. Tragically, Kennedy's life ended on November 22nd of 1963 in Dallas, assassinated before seeing his bill enacted. Yet his successor, Lyndon Johnson, invoked Kennedy's memory to rally support, maneuvering the legislation through Congress with masterful skill, leading to the signing of the Civil Rights Act on July 2nd of 1964, a law that dismantled legal segregation and fulfilled much of Kennedy's vision, followed by the Voting Rights Act of 1965 that addressed ballot access. Kennedy's journey from pragmatic politician to moral advocate illustrated the power of events to shape leadership, as the unyielding determination of ordinary citizens compelled a president to confront injustice head-on, leaving a legacy that advanced equality and inspired future generational ammunition ran low. Hope dwindled. On July 4, 1863, after more than 40 days of siege, Pemberton surrendered Vicksburg to Grant. The symbolic importance of the date deepened the emotional impact as the Union celebrated Independence Day with one of the most decisive victories of the entire war. The Mississippi River now flowed freely under Union control. The Confederacy was split in two. The Trans-Mississippi region became isolated. Western Confederate armies lost their ability to coordinate with Eastern forces. International observers recognized the magnitude of the Union achievement, and Ulysses S. Grant emerged as the most successful Union general of the war, setting him on the path toward even greater responsibility and eventual command of all Union armies. Grant's campaign for Vicksburg demonstrated a rare combination of tenacity, creativity, adaptability, and courage. He refused to accept defeat when early attempts failed. He embraced risk when others hesitated. He understood both the human cost of war and the strategic necessity of triumph. His leadership revealed that victory does not always come from the most direct approach. Sometimes success demands perseverance through frustration, resilience in the face of obstacles, and the willingness to rethink every challenge with a clear and determined mind. The fall of Vicksburg reshaped the Civil War and accelerated the Union path to victory, but it also left behind a deeper lesson. It taught that even the strongest fortress can fall when met with patient resolve. It showed that bold ideas, supported by disciplined action, can overcome the most difficult circumstances. It proved that leadership is not measured by ease or comfort, but by the ability to stand firm when trials multiply. And it reminded every generation that determination guided by vision has the power to change the course of history.ns. The profound lesson from this era endures, reminding us that justice demands not passive observation but active commitment, that in times of division, true leaders must summon the courage to champion righteousness over expediency, ensuring that the pursuit of equality remains an unbreakable promise for every soul in the tapestry of humanity.